What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk. It's Wednesday, September 11th, and before we dive in, I'd like to take a second to pause just to remember all who paid the ultimate sacrifice 23 years ago today in the attacks on America. Thank you. I'm your host, Matt, and like I said, welcome back to the Tide Talk. We're back in the away end to preview RIFC's cross-country trip to take on Orange County. So cozy up, crack a beer. Let's dive into this one. Just a reminder, each episode is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second to click the thumbs up button on this video to give it a like and subscribe to our podcast. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple, and if you listen on one of those, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find our show. If you're already using the RIFC Club Collector app, click the link in this episode description to get on that site. Go into the code TIDETALK, all one word, to get started and get a free pack today. I'm joined by Ray from the Orange County Soccer Club pod.com. Ray, how's it going today? You're outside in beautiful sunny Irvine right now, correct?
I am, and you know what the funny part is the moment you introduced me, the wind kicked up on here, so I apologize for any wind out there. But yeah, beautiful Southern California, Orange County. I'm actually at UC Irvine. Due to the time here, it's still work hours for us over here, so I'm taking a lunch break to join you all. And I will say this is the first beautiful day we've had in about a week. We've been hitting temperatures way above 100 degrees, which is really unusual for us here in Orange County. So I had to take advantage of the nice weather outside, but apologize for any wind noise that we have because of this.
Quite all right. We've got the heat kind of creeping back in with us. I mean, been seasonably cooler for us here of late, but we're back and creeping back up into the 80s, so that's pretty good. But we'll dive in and preview this matchup between RIFC and Orange County. But first, if you could take a minute to tell us about your podcast and all the work that you guys do.
Yeah, so our podcast is the Orange and Black Soccercast. We established back in the middle of the USL season in 2018. The podcast was actually created by myself and my other original podcast host, Dylan, who's still on the show. Sort of the origins of all this is going back in the days, I used to actually write for a LA Clippers fan blog. And when I sort of left that because I just wasn't having fun anymore, I took a little break. I looked at what podcasting was like. I actually started a brief Clippers pod that had 2 episodes or 3 episodes. Then went to my first Orange County Soccer Club match. Loved it. Loved the experience. Tried to look up information about this team and found that there was little to no coverage of Orange County Soccer Club. Even when you look into some of the local media, obviously competing with the LA sports market, we get very limited coverage. So I decided, hey, let me talk to the club. Would they be interested in, helping support me in starting a podcast that covers this team? Obviously not asking for support monetarily, but would they give me access to news, players, interviews, and stuff like that? They gave me a thumbs up. I went to a second match, went and hung out with County Line Coalition, which is the supporters group here for Orange County. I spoke to a couple members, and one was a young man by the name of Dylan Allen. He was, I believe, 18 or 19 at the time. And he said, sure, I'll try that out. And lo and behold, I think to the surprise of both him and myself, we're now going here, 6 years of podcasting about Orange County, and we've only gotten stronger since then. We now have a nice team of about, I would like to say, 10 contributors that fully contribute to our pod, including a few great writers that have contributed great written content, which we didn't do in the past. And over the last couple of years, we've really upped the game there. We have our producer, Andy, who joined a couple years ago, and he does a lot of good work behind the scenes, producing our shows and getting social media stuff out. And then we have the others, the ones you might see on the camera: Larry, Dylan, myself, Brad. Every so often, Taylor is able to join us. And it's a great team. It's fun. And we like we always say, we get to talk about soccer for an hour once a week with people that we now consider friends because we know each other through this experience. So it's been great. And we always like to work and help support other lower level soccer podcasts and websites whenever possible, because we know the struggle. I'm sure you're familiar with that struggle of creating content for a lower league US team. So we're open and we're always willing to do stuff like this. So thank you for having us on the show.
Thank you for joining, and I really because it's a very similar model to what we've started. Obviously, our first year, in the league, and our first year of doing this podcast, Matt Hands is in the chat. He says up the written content. He's one of our bloggers. So we'll definitely have to talk off air, right? About kind of the structure, because it seems like we have a very similar structure to you guys, and just kind of talk about the growth from that. So definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us and preview this one. To kick us off and kind of talk about Orange County, kind of a brief summary. How would you I guess describe the season so far?
How would I describe the season so far? Probably frustrating, a struggle, difficult for us Orange County Soccer Club fans. I think many of us went into this season based off of what the team did in the offseason. A very rare move for our team and a lot of teams at this level of retaining a lot of players from a team that succeeded or did really well at the end of last season, pushing into the playoffs and really almost coming close to knocking Phoenix out, which was the eventual USL champions last season. So coming into the season, there was a lot of hope. Obviously, we lost our goal-scoring leader and sort of our offensive main focus point there, Imala Analoski, who went over to Europe. But from what we saw from the club with some of the moves, bringing in players like an Ethan Zubak, who is a proven goal scorer at this level and has also done some stuff at MLS level, bringing back someone like a Cameron Dunbar, who we expected a lot of now that he had some stability here in Orange County. Unfortunately, a lot of things have gone wrong for this team that has been disheartening for us fans. Obviously, when you look at the injury report, pretty much every match this season, except for the first few and maybe these next few matches, literally 8, 9, 10 players on the injury report. And we're not talking about just players that are like roster fillers. These are key contributors to this team. Thomas Among, Seth Kasipli, Dylan Powers. We've had instances with Marcus Nakim out. And so it's been very difficult in that, because it's almost like a what if season if we stay healthy. Sure. Then you look at the team as far as 3 different coaches throughout this season, starting off with Coach Morten Carlson. He makes the move over to Europe. And obviously the one thing with Orange County is they've made it known that they don't want to hold people back from bigger and better things. And that includes the coaching staff. So when Coach Carlson had an opportunity to head back to his home country and coach in the first division, Orange County, obviously we got some sort of fee for that move, but we're not going to say, hey, no, we need him to stay, even though everyone loved him as a coach. Paul Hardiman comes on, who was instrumental in building up our youth academy and bringing some of these great youth players up into the first team. He took over, and let's just say it was not the prettiest of opportunities or moments for both himself and for the club. We struggled with him. The club relieves him of power, and then now we have Coach Danny Stone, who started the season as the head coach with Phoenix Rising, was sacked early on in the season, came over about a month and a half ago to Orange County as an assistant, and now he's in charge of the team. And the hope from Orange County fans is, with how horrible this season has been, when you look at it all, we're still on the edge of making it into the playoffs. And anyone that knows U.S. soccer, you make it into the playoffs and you get healthy and you get on a nice little run, you can be a dangerous team. And
anything can happen.
We like to joke on our show that I don't think many teams want to face a healthy and sort of informed Orange County team once the playoffs start, because it's dangerous. We've got the quality there. We've got the talent there. We just need to get healthy, and we need to, get our tactics down, which with a third coach who knows how that's going to work out. But you guys are catching us at the wrong time, because he's had 2 whole weeks to sort of implement some strategies. We didn't have a match last weekend like you all had.
Right. So one thing I will say that I do like is you mentioned the wrong time, but the run of form would tell you otherwise, obviously, right? With the 4 losses out of the last 5, most recently a 3-2 last time out versus Las Vegas, and that was your first goals scored in that 5-match run. Just the 2 goals in that 5-match winless run for you guys. But you probably already mentioned a few of these answers in the answer you just gave. But we do a segment on here called The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. So if you could give us a good moment from your season so far, a bad moment, and an ugly moment. And like I said, I'm sure you probably mentioned a few, and I'm sure some others might come from this last 5-game stretch.
Well, I'm probably going to catch slack when I say a good moment here. I'm going to really go to our most recent match against Las Vegas. And the reason I'm going to do that is we were in such a rut and we couldn't get the ball in the back of the net. And we were able to get 2 goals out of Ethan Zubak. Probably he should have had a hat trick. If you look at that match, there was a couple missed opportunities from him. And who knows, we get that hat trick, it's a different result. I put that in the good category, though, because with all the struggles Orange County had, a change in the head coach just a few days prior to that match, the team looked like a totally different team on the pitch than they had probably the previous 2.5 months on the pitch. And so I look at that as a good moment for Orange County, and I'm hoping they can build on that. I'm hoping with the time that they've had under Coach Danny Stone, that's going to mean something. And I'm just hoping I'm one of those people. If you don't watch our show, you'll know I throw in basketball references all the time, but it's like a basketball player that just cannot make a shot. They keep taking shots, and they're a good shooter. And then once the ball finally drops through the net, now they're making 10, 15 in a row. So I'm hoping with the net opening up for Orange County against Las Vegas, that's a good sign for us. The bad, like I mentioned before, the bad is the injuries that we've struggled with all season. And even just going into this upcoming match, I still look at it as a bad thing because, yes, we're getting a lot of players healthy, which is a good time to be doing so. We still have, a few matches left before the end of the season, a chance to push into the playoffs. But it's hard when you've had so many players out and now you're trying to integrate them all at the same time. It can
with the new coach as well, right?
With a new coach as well, yes. It could take a lot of work. And I think we sort of saw that. I know Las Vegas match was a good. It's also sort of a bad because we saw in the second half, Coach Danny Stone was trying to reintegrate some of these players that have missed key stretches. Kevin Partita, Tomas Among, Seth Kasipli, trying to get them in there, and you could see the rust and you could see the struggles. And that's just something that takes time to come through. And when you have maybe one player that you're trying to reintegrate into a lineup, it's not as big of an impact. But when you have 3, 4, 5 players you're trying to reintegrate, it's difficult. So the bad for the season is that. The ugly, I mean, I don't think anyone will argue with me. And if any of my fellow Orange County fans do, they're crazy. They're loco, because the ugly is the match against Charleston, which I think ultimately led to the sacking of Coach Paul Hardiman, a 6-0 road loss, the worst loss in club history. It was something where, as an Orange County fan, it was tough to even finish watching that match. I will admit I didn't watch it live. I was able to catch a replay of it, and I put it like at 1.5 times speed just so I wouldn't have to go a full 90 minutes.
You're a brave soul for watching the replay and knowing the score after that one, right?
It's part of what I try to do so that I at least sound smart when I'm talking
sure.
On our show or guesting on other shows. I want to at least know what I'm talking about. And I'll tell you this, even I sometimes watch these things and I still get things wrong on the show. So, but that 100%, if anyone has a complaint or argument that that's not the ugly moment for Orange County this season, reach out to me on DMs or email the podcast and we'll talk about that. Cause I want to know.
Stand on that hill.
I want to know what's going on in someone's mind if they don't think that's the ugly for Orange County this year.
Fair enough. Another segment we do on Tide Talk is called RIFC in 3, where we give a 3-word summary or 3-word review of each match, post-match, and we have our listeners respond on the socials with their 3-word takes. Usually ends up as our episode titles too, so always a fun interaction piece. So if you could give a 3-word review or a 3-word summary of Orange County's season so far, what would you do? And I'm sure it's going to include the word injury.
That's a good one to use. There's a lot of words that someone could pick to use to describe the season. The first word I'm going to go with is this is the family-friendly version of this word, but sure. Cluster mess. Mess.
All right, I like that. We do carry the explicit tag if you ever need to. If you want to go back on it, you're good.
No, cluster mess is a good one. I like to use that one. That's what I use in professional settings if I think something's crazy, right? I got that from an old boss. He what he's meaning, but he's saying it in a PC way. I say that just because if you look at this whole season, you could have not written out a script for like the worst possible outcome for a season for a team with such high hopes heading into the 2024 USL Championship season. That includes again 3 coaching changes or 3 head coaches, so 2 coaching changes mid-season, and the inability to replace Milan Alaski with, even though you weren't trying to get a direct replacement for him, you were trying to get a replacement by committee when you had the return of Thomas Among, the return of Cameron Dunbar, the return of some other key players on the attacking line like a Bryce Jamieson, and then bringing in someone like an Ethan Zubak. You were hoping to get similar production out of a group of players as what Milan was able to provide for Orange County last year. And early on, yes, we were struggling to score the goals, at least from those key contributors. We were still getting those lucky touches to go in the back of the net. But things, second word, injury. You look at again, I ask, if Rhode Island FC fans haven't really caught much from Orange County this year, just go back and look at the intros to each of these matches where they list the injury report, and it's literally, they don't have enough space to list the players, because it's a generic little box that they put the injuries for, because they expect a couple injuries. Right. But Orange County would literally, I remember one match, like 2 months ago, where I think it was 11 players listed as unavailable. And these are 11 first team players listed as unavailable. Obviously not all starters, but a good chunk of those players. And it wasn't all injury, but it was mostly injury. There was a Duran Fari who was on loan from San Diego FC. He was, I believe, on international duty with the youth US team. One of the few that wasn't injured, but injury's been a big part of it. You had Brian Alaski, Milan's brother, who has always been a key part for the last 3 or 4 seasons of Orange County's attacking midfield. Very dangerous with his left foot, really good at finding open players, and could put the ball in the back of the net. He goes down with I believe it was an ACL injury in the midseason. We have Kevin Partita, who's, Kyle Scott's been amazing for Orange County this year, but without his partner in Kevin Partita, I like to always joke that those two, they make each other so much better. So we've seen what Kyle Scott can do for Orange County, but without Kevin Partita there for a big chunk of the season, I think Scott has been asked to do more, and you can see the frustration from Kyle Scott in those situations. The injuries have been horrible. That takes me to the third word, frustration. I talked about that earlier when I was talking about the season for Orange County fans. It's not just frustration from the fans. You could see the look of frustration on a lot of these players' faces from the results, from what's happening, from working your butt off and still not able to get a result. We look at that Las Vegas match. You're hoping when you have a 2-0 lead in the first half, early on in the first half, you can at least hold on for a result. And unfortunately, Orange County conceded 3 goals unanswered, and we don't get anything out of that match. Although we get a little bit of positivity because they finally found the back of the net. You're seeing frustration from the coaching staff. Yeah, and it all, leads up to team owner James Keston writing an open letter to fans, basically saying that the results that we've seen are unacceptable. There will be changes. We are going to do better. And you don't see that often, especially at this level of soccer. You don't see an owner come out and basically say, I'm fed up with this. This is not acceptable. This is not what I expect out of this team. We're going to do better. And we learned, a week or two later that also includes the sacking of Coach Paul Hardiman, bringing in Danny Stone as the interim head coach. But that frustration is all around the board, the fans, players, front office staff, coaching staff, and team owner. Cluster mess, injury, frustration. Those are the 3 words that wrap up or describe the season for Orange County this year.
I think that frustration piece with the owner, like you said, is very different, and I think that's something that can really essentially evoke change for you guys. Hopefully for your sake, right? So like you said, you don't see that too often, so that is an interesting piece of it as well. But I don't know of anyone from Rhode Island making the cross country trek, so we usually ask what the stadium atmosphere is like. So I guess not so much for those people, but talk about a typical Orange County game day, from the tailgate to the match itself. The vibes. What are we going to see on TV? I do know there is a contingency of San Diego loyal fans that are going because they want to see Koke Vegas in that. Just take me through a typical game day, tailgate atmosphere, in the stadium atmosphere, supporter group vibes. What do you got?
Yeah, so we get those San Diego fans making the trip up, to support San Diego 2.0, which is Rhode Island FC. Let me first say, we miss San Diego. San Diego was a great little rivalry for the couple years that we had there. I enjoyed the trips I made down to San Diego. I enjoyed interacting with those fans as they made the trip up here. And one of our sort of older, sort of part of the original crew of host, Alan Underwood, he was a San Diego person. He supported us, and then San Diego got a team, and then he sort of dual supported, and then got too busy for the life of multiple podcasts. Sure. But as far as the experience, so very recently, when I say very recently, this season, we've sort of got tailgating going here. It's been something that's been a struggle for the Orange County fans to do so, but they do get a nice little setup for tailgate. I've made it out there once. They get the pop-up tent. They get, some activities, some music. I know when I was there, I'm a soccer coach. I brought out a couple pug goals for the kids that were there to kick the ball around and play some soccer. It's a good group of people. And the fun thing, if you do happen to get any Rhode Island supporters making their way here, maybe they live in Southern California and now they're coming out here to support the team. Let them know. Join in with Counterline Coalition. It's a great group of people. We're big on supporting soccer culture. As long as you're not going to be a jerk and you're not going to, try and start fights, we love to interact with the other teams, supporters, and fans in any way. But nice little atmosphere. They've got their pregame ritual, which includes a very specific drink that the fans, the origins comes from Reno, the Reno team back in the days when some of our fans made the trip up there. There's a drink apparently that they used to do pregame, which is called Malort. I don't know if you or your fans know what Malort is. It is.
I know you're a Spurs fan. I know that's just from starting Rhode Island Spurs. It's super big with the Milwaukee group. They are all in on Malort.
Yeah, it's some sort of Chicago liqueur or something like that. I could never really quite figure out what the flavor or the taste was, and then our producer Andy on the show said, think about a flip-flop that's been thrown into a fire pit and what that would taste like. And then I took my next drink of Malort, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I'm getting, the taste that I'm getting. So for those that have never tried it and don't want to try it, now you know. Now you know what to expect.
It is odd.
But Orange County did their own spin on it. They add a little bit of extra stuff to it. So it's actually a sort of mixed drink concoction with Malort.
Okay.
So it's a pregame ritual. They take shots. And obviously, if there's fans from the other team, we welcome them to try it, just like the Reno fans welcomed us to try it when we took the trip up to Reno. Like 3, 4, 5 years ago. Who knows how long ago that was. As far as the stadium atmosphere, it's gotten a lot better than it had been in the past. I'm sure if you're a soccer fan, although y'all are new to the league, Orange County had a little bit of a battle for their stadium against LA Galaxy when LA Galaxy was trying to take over control of our stadium from the city. Basically came in. So I don't want to say details because I don't want to get in trouble for saying malicious stuff or incorrect information. But from what I could tell is, Orange County's trying to get a deal with the city, and sort of in a back end thing or a off to the side thing, LA Galaxy is trying to figure out a way to get sole control of the stadium. Luckily, the fans at Orange County rallied behind that. And also fans from across the United States that support soccer, support lower division soccer, and even a lot of LA Galaxy fans came out and were like, this is just not right. I like to look back at that moment of there's a fan from Phoenix. She's known as Soccer Mom. Monica, I believe is her name. She actually waited on hold for an Irvine City Council meeting that they purposely went on like an hour recess to do something. I don't know, eat dinner or whatever they were doing in the background. Come back in, and this is a city hall full of Orange County supporters. And Monica waits, and she was legit the last person that they called to go up on a Zoom because they had it was both in person and via Zoom. So she waited probably like 3.5 hours to be able to share her piece on it. As a Phoenix Rising fan, which at the time, Phoenix and Orange County, those are sort of bitter rivalries. We don't quite like each other, but we like to support each other because we know what that means as fans. But when it's on the field, it's, we don't like you, you don't like us during the match. But for someone like that to wait on hold for like 3.5 hours to get their voice across for an Irvine City Council meeting, it's nothing to do with anything she's related to, except for she supports other USL teams. Ever since all that happened, stadium atmosphere has grown. The team's done a better job of creating a better atmosphere. Nothing against our previous president of business operations, but I think he sort of took it more like a minor league baseball mentality where you have sort of gimmicky things going on, lucha libre matches.
Like what Hartford does. So
I can't say because I've never seen or done. Not quite at the level that Las Vegas used to do, but stuff like that where they would do gimmicks to try and just sort of entice, make it family friendly. Our current president of business operations, he comes from the background of an English football fan supporting AFC Wimbledon out in England. So he goes into it with more of a mentality of trying to make soccer the key focus. You still have like themed nights, like we had a night, a Marvel night, or every year we do a touch a truck night where, we bring in a bunch of different kinds of trucks for kids to get a chance to sit in the driver's seat and stuff like that. Sure. They do Beer Fest, which has been a great thing, but less of the gimmicky stuff, like, lucha libre, before the match, come watch a wrestling match before a soccer match type thing. And more of soccer's the focus. Here's something else you could do while you're at the soccer game, whether it's a beer fest or, one of the other neat things that they do. The atmosphere at the stadium's grown because there's more fans attending matches. Although with the struggles of the team this year, you've seen a little dip maybe in what we would have loved to see. But there's still a good chunk of fans, a good chunk of supporters there. They're at the games week in and week out. The supporters group CLC does a great job of, chanting away all match long. And if any of your fans do make it out, come check out CLC, come say hi to them. And here they're not, you get some supporters groups, and I don't know your supporter groups at all, Matt. So don't.
We are the Defiant
on this.
The Defiant 1636.
So we like to pride ourselves here in Orange County with the supporters is we don't do the same one or two chants all match long like you might see from other supporters groups. They legit have a chant for almost every player on the roster. And if they don't have one, people try and get creative. So, Colin Shuttler, his chants to the theme of SpongeBob SquarePants, and you'll get chants to the theme of a Social Distortion song because one of our former players, Miko Kaningas, we found out he was a huge Social D fan. That's a local band. Let's do something like that. Cool. So it's cool in that way. And they have so many chants and they keep things busy, but it's not repetitive. So if you like hearing unique, interesting chants, we have one theme to Baby Shark. Yes. I don't think a lot of soccer fans would be willing to say, hey, let's do a Baby Shark, tune for a chant. But Orange County likes to be creative with what they do. And it's been really amazing. The fans stay behind this team. They have fun. And the stadium's beautiful. It's a nice atmosphere. Now that the club is sort of the one controlling like what happens at the stadium a little bit more, it's still city owned, but the club has their agreement. I think it was a 5-year agreement with a 5-year option to add on top of it. So now the club can actually keep some of their branding on the stadium full time. Instead of what it was in the past where before every match you set it up, at the end of every match you tear it down. So it makes things nice. It makes it feel more like a home. It makes it feel more like this is really Orange County SC's home stadium and for years to come, which is awesome.
That's pretty cool. Kind of diving back into like the game itself and previewing the matchup. I know injuries make this a little bit different for you, but give us 3 players that will be available for selection for Rhode Island fans to really keep an eye on that could impact this match.
So that's a tough one because the word is we're getting healthy, but you never know. And Orange County's always been very tight-lipped on injuries and who's available, who's not. It's even difficult for us from time to time. The only time we really were able to get information like that was a month or so back when we had Paul Hardyman on the show. And he actually, one of my co-hosts, Brad, asked him the question. I was anticipating the cookie cutter response, we got players that are working to get back and we hope to see them soon. But he went down a rundown of all the injuries of who's out and who's making the way back. So without knowing the details, I have to really look at someone like an Ethan Zubak. I'm hoping, although really late in the season, I'm hoping his brace last match has opened up the net for him a little bit more, where he can have more confidence in getting the ball in the back of the net. He's really our most dangerous goal scorer right now. But obviously it's been difficult for him, and without injuries, maybe a Thomas Among would be that person we're looking at to be the goal scorer. But Ethan's the one that you have to really count on, because you know that he's still fully healthy and can do it. And he really works his butt out there on the pitch. It's not like he doesn't work hard. We saw that last match against Las Vegas. The next name is someone returning recently from injury that I'm hoping makes an impact, and that's going to be Kevin Partita. Like I mentioned earlier, he's a really big contribution. Him and Kyle Scott, when they're both healthy and they're both on their game, they are probably the best midfield duo that you're going to see in the league, with the way they work together, their work rate. They both can be a little yellow happy sometimes. They get a little overly aggressive sometimes. And it's almost one of those things you think about, like, if one of them doesn't get a card in a match, then you're wondering what happened. Typically one of them will get a card. Now with Kevin out for 3 months or so, Kyle's been racking up a lot of those cards. He actually had to sit out recently because of card accumulation. But when the two of them are healthy and on the pitch together and on in form, it's a really great duo to have out there. They play well off each other. They cover each other's back when needed. Kyle is typically a little bit further up the pitch. They're a little bit more on the attacking side, while Kevin's more of a defensive type midfielder, but they both can help each other out in a lot of those roles. So the hope is that he did come back against Vegas in the second half. He's one of those players that I mentioned trying to reintegrate into the squad, which is difficult when you have multiple players. I'm hoping with that appearance and then a little bit of a break between his next appearance, there's the chance to work up some of that conditioning, and he's ready to hopefully make a good contribution and be strong for Orange County against Rhode Island. Third player to call out. That's a tough one, because there's a lot of names that are running through my mind.
Well, I'll also, like, before you do it, if you want to kind of like look at it in two parts, our guy Nate Ski always asks who's a super sub, and I know that, or any sub that can come on and influence the game, and I know that's a very formation and starting 11 dependent question, but also with players getting back to full fitness. So feel free to think about that as you give your third player and a potential impact sub.
So, I mean, one player, if we're going to go that route and go impactful super sub, I have to think, as long as the fitness is there and there's no setbacks, is going to be a Thomas Among. I think for every Orange County fan, when you looked at this roster this season, you saw him as the super sub for Orange County. And the reason we look at it like that is you bring him in the final 25 minutes of a match when players are exhausted and tired and physically worn out. Thomas Among, he's not tall, but he's pretty stocky. He's pretty strong, and he's got some quickness, and he's athletic. I mean, what player do you know, have you ever seen go up for a header, get undercut by a goalkeeper, and his heel clicks the crossbar in a play? I mean, that's athleticism. I don't care if it was because the goalkeeper clipped you, took you out, flipped you over. You still got pretty darn high to be able to get your heels on the crossbar. If he's healthy, and if he's not thrown into the starting lineup because maybe Coach Danny Stone sees he should be the starter instead of a Zubak, who's been playing a lot of minutes for Orange County, he's the impact sub if he is in fact on the bench. He's the one that can change the game in a moment. My one thing with him is sometimes he might go down a little too easily. And I think because he's looks stronger as a player, I think sometimes the refs, it's almost like that Shaquille O'Neal sort of mentality. He's a stronger guy. He shouldn't be going down so easily. Differently. But he gets in there physically. And I mean, dude, like, bit into his bottom lip and was bleeding like crazy. And I don't think there was even a foul called on a play like that. And it was partly because he was like nudged or elbowed or shoved or whatever it was. So, but again, if he's on the bench and he's coming in as a super sub, he's the super sub for Orange County.
Gotcha. All right. So keys to the game. If Orange County were to win this one, what needs to happen? What goes right for you guys?
First and foremost for Orange County is score a goal at least. Because of the struggles without scoring goals, it's been tough. But really what it is you got to also play some solid defense. I'm on the mindset is and I coach my youth soccer team, my message is always defense is what's going to win. If you play good defense, worst thing that happens, you don't give up a goal, you could draw, and you get a result. At least you get a point out of it. So obviously scoring goals is important, but I really think Orange County is in need of a really, really good defensive performance in this match. I think if Orange County's defense is looking good for the full 90 minutes and they don't concede a goal, or they only concede one goal, which obviously if they don't concede a goal, that's a good result for you. I'm not trying to, sort of make it such an easy thing, but it's one of the struggles for Orange County this year. Colin Shuttler with our team in the past, he sort of earned a nickname of Shutout Shuttler because 1 or 2 seasons ago, he was shutting out a lot of teams. And obviously it's not always just the goalkeeper, it's really strong defense. But we need to see a strong defensive result from this team. And part of the struggles for Orange County, again, I'm going back to injuries. We've struggled with injuries in defense. Players like Dylan Powers, who is more naturally a defensive midfielder, but last year was a key part to our center defense last year. Marcus Knockham's been out. Andrew Fox has been out. We've had to rely for a good half of the season on young Ashton Miles, who came out of our youth academy. He was the first professional contract that graduated from our youth academy to a full-time professional contract. It's only like 18 or 19 years old, starting the first half of the season, pretty much played every single minute until we got healthy, which he did an amazing job. Nothing against Ashton Miles, but there's a reason why typically teams start people that are a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more prepared, a little bit more mentally prepared for matches. And it's because of the strain and the mental toughness that you have to play in this league. I think for Orange County to be successful in this match, we need to see a really cohesive, strong defensive setup from the team, regardless of the scoring struggles. Obviously that's well documented, but Orange County needs to play good defense. And we've seen lapses of this team throughout the season. And thus the reason why Orange County is struggling in 2024.
Sure. And as Evan, aka Megatron, mentions in the chat, Rhode Island FC have only scored 1 goal in the last 4 road matches. So we've had our struggle scoring on the road as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think you kind of touched upon it in your answer there. But kind of the flip side of that question of if Rhode Island FC come in and get all 3 points, what went wrong for Orange County?
What went wrong for Orange County if Rhode Island gets all 3 points is Orange County played the way they've played all season, which is not playing a full 90 minutes of soccer and taking mental lapses or having mental lapses during the match. There's been too many times we've seen it even recently. I want to say if it was the Las Vegas match of an errant pass by a usually reliable Owen Lamb, an errant pass right to the Las Vegas player in our final third of the pitch, leading to a goal for Las Vegas. And those types of things, if you're playing well and you're playing mentally smart and doing what you need to do, those aren't happening. And again, I understand if it's a young player that is inexperienced making those types of mistakes, but Owen Lamb's been playing for multiple years. He's a quality player. He's a key part of our team. He's not someone that's being thrown into the lineup because of injuries, because of maybe players struggling. He's one of our key players on that defense. He contributes quite a bit. He's had some really amazing goals from the defensive right back position. And it's been those types of things, I think, that have defined when we Orange County season, when we see those things happening, those lapses, those just really bonehead plays from reliable players. That's what's been a struggle for Orange County. So if we're seeing more of the same with those bonehead plays in this match, Orange County's probably not coming away with any points, and Rhode Island's getting the 3 points. Now, on the flip side, I believe the last opponent you all played was Pittsburgh. I know they were in 9th place. I don't know if we're still in 9th place. I don't know if we're still in 9th place. I know we were in 9th place after the results last week. I don't have the results in front of me right now, unfortunately, but I'm hoping we're still in 9th place because then maybe we can pull out very similar result. So, hey, maybe back-to-back losses against the 9th place teams, both in the East and the West, is what's coming up for Rhode Island, which hey, I'm a superstitious person, so I will take that as a positive sign for Orange County. So maybe that's the positive sign for them to get the full 3 points.
I hear that. We're at our section where we'll be giving our score predictions. So if you're in the chat, throw yours in the chat. We'll pull them up on air. And while I give people a minute to do it, Ray, you're wearing a Spurs lanyard there. I am a Spurs supporter as well. My co-host Ryan is a Gooner. So the fact that we do this together is pretty wild and pretty crazy. It's Northumberland Derby this weekend. Declan Rice is out. Odegaard's hurt. What's your prediction for that one?
You're putting me on the spot with this one, huh?
Oh,
yeah.
Just to piss Brian off mainly, but
I'm usually a very positive person when it comes to these scores. I don't know what I want to do on this though, because for those that aren't familiar with our show, I typically have a wonky prediction that I give in hopes that it goes wrong.
Sure.
I don't know if I want to do that for this though. I'm hoping. See, I haven't even looked and see who's back in the lineup for Spurs or who's still out. So with that said, I'm going to just do my wonky stuff. And don't be mad at me for this, but I'm going to say 5-0 Arsenal. Just in the hopes that I'm jinxing Arsenal.
Let me live that
crazy.
Down. Oh,
no. But
I
for those that don't know,
reverse psychology piece. I do like that.
But if I'm giving my legit prediction, I'm going to say I have faith in Spurs. I'll go 2-0 Spurs.
Right. Okay. I do like that with Odegaard and Rice both potentially looking like they're out. Definitely Rice, but Odegaard looking hurt. So for the RIFC match, we've got Evan saying, considering both teams having trouble scoring lately, we're either going to see a 0-0 draw or a goal fest, 3-3. I don't see a victory by either team. I see that as well. Brian has a 2-2 draw with the slanted face there. What do you have for your Rhode Island FC versus Orange County score prediction?
So I'm trying to go back and remember what I even said on our show. And so I'm probably, this is me. I make things up on the, in the spot. I don't really plan for stuff like this. I want to make sure when I give this score, I don't want to get tricked into anything here. The home team, I'm going to say Orange County first and then Rhode Island score. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say 2-0 Orange County.
Okay. All right. We did a live show at Providence Brewing ahead of the Pittsburgh match. It was like a pregame show, and we kind of went through the rest of the RIFC season to give a prediction, based on wins, draws, and losses for the remaining schedule and how many points that would accumulate us and where we think that would fall as far as a final table finish. So if you haven't watched that, you're listening to our show, go check it out. Ryan did an awesome job with slides, of course, for that one. So go check that out, and you can kind of see where Kevin and I were very similar and Ryan was a little more optimistic. But I looked at this one kind of as essentially a trap because you're traveling cross country. But looking at your guys' recent run of form and ours, I had it as a 1-1 draw. I think both teams, I feel like I say this a lot, but I think this is one that could come down to one of the teams nicking a set piece late to, kind of level things out or score a goal. But I had a 1-1 draw for this one. So it'll be interesting to see how those predictions play out. But before we let you sign off here, Ray, any final thoughts, anything else you want to share?
Well, one thing I just wanted to share or talk about for you all, that's going to be the difficult part, is that whole body clock thing going on. You guys are going to be, your players are going to be kicking off at 10 o'clock for their body.
It's late.
I don't care however you try and work it out, even if you try and get here a day early, your body can't adjust like that too quickly. So I'm hoping because of that, and because you all played last weekend, we had a weekend off. We're going to be more fit. We're going to be in a better position, and hopefully Orange County takes advantage of it early. And nothing against Rhode Island. Y'all have done a great job in your first season here in the USL. But I'm hoping that cross-country trip is going to affect you in a similar way that our cross-country trip affected us when we went to Charleston, and just sort of struggled really hard with that. And I'm going to assume there's not really many options for direct flights from Rhode Island to Orange County. So that's the other difficult part. It's not like you're going from New York to LA. You're going from Rhode Island to Orange County, which we have our airport, but it's not anything compared to LAX or something like that. There's not a lot of options for direct flights. So I'm hoping that causes trouble for you all as well.
And that wind we just heard could probably get that plane there maybe a little faster or delay it based on what direction it was whipping. But That'll wrap things up for this one. Remember, Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily social media posts. Click that link in this episode description to follow us on all of our accounts. I've been your host, Matt, for Ray from the Orange County Soccer Pod. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the Tide.